I'm John Stewart, President of the Florida Bar, and I'm fortunate to be joined with Justice Polston of the Florida Supreme Court, participating with me for an interview for what is our first ever Florida Bar annual virtual convention. So, Justice Polston, first, thank you very much for taking the time to join me. I know you all are having busy oral argument weeks this the last week or two.
Great, John. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for having the interview.
I know that you are the Justice Liaison to the Florida Court Technology Commission, which is a mouthful. We will try with FCTC from now on. So you're I guess the court's technology guru. Obviously the pandemic's had a major effect on court technology, and that you've been in this well before the last quarter when this has been an issue. What do you see as some of the challenges, and then maybe also some of the successes that we have with courtroom technology in the state of Florida right now?
Well, first of all, John, let me thank you for your personal involvement in the FCTC, the Technology Commission. You've served for many years and are coming back on after your great service as president of the Florida Bar. And thank you for the job that you've done as president this year. It's been outstanding. And the FCTC is such an important committee for the court and for the branch as a whole. It's a large committee, but even though it's large, where you would think that there's inefficiencies there, Judge Lisa Munyon is in charge of that particular commission and does such an outstanding job of breaking up into subcommittees. There's lawyers, clerks of court, technology folks, trial court administrators, judges at every level. And it's always well attended by a lot of people, even the people who are not members of the committee, because it's such an important function that that particular committee does. And it's been in existence for a very long time and has worked extremely hard to develop technology to a point where we are today, which is not where we sit and want to be always in the future, but we were in a much better place now than we would have been but for the hard work of that particular committee with this shutdown basically going on. So I would say the success of the use of technology is that we're not completely dead in the water, that we have electronic filing through the portal. We have use of all appellate courts by Zoom or other platforms, or Microsoft Team in the trial courts and Zoom in the appellate courts. And we are proceeding as best we can and getting a lot done, even though we've have some things that we can't get to, like jury trials.
Well, I want to thank you, as you mentioned, having served on FCTC, for your attendance at those meetings. I know your calendar's very busy, but I know your presence is valuable and your input is really important. I think one of the great successes of that committee is involving judges, lawyers, clerks, court technology officers. We rarely mingle together in one committee, so that's been a great success. I know you mentioned the court moving forward, not just the Supreme Court, but trial courts, et cetera, with video conferencing. And the Supreme Court had, I think, its first several oral arguments by video conference. So, what was your take on that? Pluses and minuses. How did you like it? What maybe if there's anything you didn't like about it, maybe you can kind of shed some insight for us.
Well, it's different. But the John Tomasino, our clerk of court here, has done a great job of trying to get us ready to go to Zoom. We did the first one last month, and we're doing them this week as well. And we went through a couple dry runs, working through some glitches, making sure our internet connections were working correctly, and we knew the details of coming in and out with the sound checks and visual checks and so forth. It's different than being in the courtroom itself. There's both good and bad. Like when you see it on TV on the Florida channel, you're seeing whoever's speaking, whichever justice it is, or the lawyer speaking, and that's who you see. But when, from our viewpoint, we see the whole grid of all the justices and all the lawyers are up on our grid. So you can see if someone's getting ready to speak, the mute comes off and the microphone goes live. So you see somebody's getting queued up, ready to answer a question. And you can kind of anticipate that in a way that you don't always are able to see in the courtroom. Posture, I tend to kind of slouch in my seat a little bit in the courtroom, a little more casually, not paying as much attention to where I'm sitting close to the microphone. You have to pay a little more attention to those type things in a Zoom proceeding.
Well, it's, I know you have a few more coming, and then who knows after that, but, we'll play it by ear and hope that things can resume to normal. And I really, on behalf of the members, and, we don't get to say this that often directly to the justices, but want to thank, all of you, Chief Justice candidate, and each of the justices for, at least being open to continuing some of these would have been short-term measures into the longer term. I think certainly a few of them will have long-term benefits for lawyers and for the public, just in efficiencies using video conferencing in court, in certain court scenarios. So we really appreciate your willingness to consider that and let us sort of test the waters a little bit further. Hopefully this gets behind us and we're testing them going forward. So we appreciate.
There have been some proceedings that have actually been surprisingly able to use it. Like I was told this week that Miami-Dade is doing their traffic infraction hearings, which was a high volume proceeding, obviously, but to be able to use that. I know Jacksonville has been reported in the news over there about them doing adoptions, but those are examples, and in places where all that is going throughout the state. And I've talked to lawyers too who've used Zoom and doing depositions, for example, in California or other places where ordinarily they may have flown out there and done them in live. So as you said, I think the more that we become accustomed to the use of the technology, perhaps the more it will be accepted and the more efficient use we can make of it in the future.
I know we both like the acceleration of the learning curve, though we probably both would have chosen a different mechanism for that to happen. So hopefully the reason for it will be behind us. So we never surprise a Supreme Court justice with a question. So I'll admit that you're prepared for the question I'm going to ask you, but we thought it'd be fun for people to hear maybe something that they would be surprised to learn about Justice Ricky Polston.
That you sent that question to me, and that's a hard question. I've thought a long time about that, and it really is kind of a hard question. I think my best answer is in the past, I've done a fair amount of traveling, and I really enjoy traveling. I don't talk about it much, but especially when our daughters were younger, we did a lot of road trips. We've traveled, Deborah and I have traveled all throughout the United States. We've been to every state. We've been all to the provinces in Canada. We've spent a lot of times. We went to Australia, the UK, and some other countries in Europe. And I really enjoy it, but obviously cannot do any of that now. But I look forward to the day when we can do that again.
Well, no one would be surprised that you're well traveled, but I think anyone would be surprised that anyone that's been to all 50 states. So that's a win right there. As the justice and the high ranking person on this interview by far, you get to have the final say as we close out. And I, again, just want to thank you for all that you've done for me and for the bar and for our members. Welcome anything you'd like to say as we conclude our interview today.
Well, my final words is just a thank you. I know that Chief Justice Kennedy and Lisa Keel, our state court administrator, have been working very hard. They work hard all the time, but especially with all the problems that we have going on. And the work group on the continuity of, it's a mouthful, but the work group on the continuity of court operations and proceedings during and after COVID-19. That's the work group. And Judge Munyon is not only in charge of the FCTC, but is also in charge of that work group as well. So I have a huge shout out to all those people and those involved in the work group for all the great work that they're doing, and all the chief judges of all our courts for trying to get us through a very difficult time period.
I totally agree. I think we've done a really great job in a really short time frame of kind of catching up as best we could. So thank you for your time again, and thank you for participating in this setting so we can use it in our virtual convention, and wish you and your family the best.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Thank you.